access to accessible, affordable, and reliable transportation gives people with disabilities important opportunities to go to school or work, take care of their health, live where they choose, and participate in all aspects of community life. Local constituents depend on local public transportation options, including taxis, when they have no other option. However, there are currently no accessible taxi options in the Rio Grande Valley. What would you do to expand access to affordable and accessible transportation for people with disabilities to have access to inner-city connectivity within the county, especially in the rural areas?
Well, thank you so much for that question. And quite frankly, that hits home for me because when I came in as county commissioner, I recognized from a lot of the parents that live out in the rural areas, they were asking about or requesting that we do something about the mobility from the rural areas into the inner city. So we quickly assessed that, and we saw that there were no rural modes of transportation for our community and for all residents. And so we partnered with the Lower Rio Grande Development Council and Valley Metro. And I'm proud to say that we brought our very first bus stop to the rural area of Hidalgo County, to an area in San Carlos. It's a very poverty-stricken area. And this bus stop is accessible to everyone. We made sure the bus stop was ADA compliant so that everyone could access the Valley Metro system. It runs daily from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I want to mention the route because it just goes to show you how it's very comprehensive. There's other bus stops within the route where people can transfer onto another route and access education, access healthcare, entertainment, shopping, pretty much anything that's in the route of the Valley Metro system. So the one that we set up in San Carlos goes from Westlaco through Ed Couch, Elsa, La Villa, San Carlos, UT-RGV, education, Edinburgh City Hall, University Drive in Edinburgh, Westlaco City Hall, SCC Mid-Valley Campus. And of course, within all that city, there are other stops that they can transfer it onto and get other parts of the valley. And this is accessible to anyone that's traveling independently or with an escort. And, I'm a former educator, and it's one of my priorities to make sure that we support our residents and especially those that are most vulnerable and have access to, like I said, health, education, and all our retail businesses out there. So, and I don't want it to be the first and only, but rather let this be the first of many to come in Hidalgo.
And we're very familiar with it. In fact, Commissioner Torres' office worked very closely with UTRGV because we do have an area health education clinic that provides primary care services out in the San Carlos area. And y'all were so gracious to work with us and say, yes, we want to do this, and make sure that we had a bus stop there for those who need to be able to access the healthcare services. So thank you for that. Yes. Now, let's talk about the rideshare industry, because we've all seen Uber, Lyft, of course, the taxis again. How would you hold the rideshare industry accountable to ensure that they also provide some accessible transportation options, including to passengers who use wheelchairs and power chairs or who cannot transfer out of their chairs in the county?
Well, first and foremost, with the American Disabilities Act, this is a guarantee that people with disabilities have equal access to public transportation. And that means that public transportation providers cannot refuse to provide transportation because of a disability. However, with these newly formed independent contractor type of services, I see and I've read about how they are playing out, in my opinion, discriminating. And so I think we need to hold them accountable. I myself, in the position that I'm in, I will continue to advocate for persons with disabilities, work with legislators to ensure that we hold the rideshare industry to be in compliance with all the standards of the ADA that was passed many years ago. Like I said, anything less than that, in my opinion, is plain out discrimination, and we do need to hold them accountable, but we need measures there, and we need voices, collective voices, to come out and make sure that they are meeting the ADA and that they are in compliance what was established many, many years ago. They're not immune. They should not be immune to the act that we passed many, many years ago. And of course, with my authority, with my voice as a county commissioner, I will join forces with anyone and everyone to make sure that that there's justice and fairness for everyone, and accountability. At the end of the day, accountability. They want to be a business, an independent business owner, and have your own car to ride around and give people rides and so forth. Then you need to make sure that it is available to all persons with all abilities. Yes.
Well, I like that, collective voices, and there is power in numbers. And
Exactly.
in fact, speaking of power in numbers, with regard to voting, Americans with disabilities face many obstacles and barriers to voting, including inaccessible polling places and voting equipment, difficulty getting to polling places, and poorly informed election officials and poll workers. In the past election, over 70% of polling places were not accessible. So what steps would you take to ensure that people with disabilities in the Rio Grande Valley have the same access to voting, registering, and casting a ballot as people without disabilities?
Well, I know that we at Hidalgo County, we as a Commissioners Court, as well as our Elections Department, is very committed to ensure that all voters have that opportunity, whether they have a disability or not, that everyone has the, ensure that they're able to come in and cast their vote, whether they choose to come in to a voting site, a location, or they choose to use other options that we do have available for pretty much anyone who is electing to utilize those services. As your county commissioner, I've supported the elections department over the course of my tenure as a county commissioner. We've provided for our elections department to hire additional support staff to meet the mandates of all these new rules and so forth. We've made sure that all of our polling sites are ADA compliant, that there is access for anyone who is needing to come in, whether they need to utilize a ramp with their wheelchair, whether they're needing to get someone to come out to their car for curbside. We make sure that every location, and that we have plenty of locations where people can go to cast their vote. We do have 28 locations, and I have talked with Ms. Ramon, and they're all accessible. They're all ADA compliant for anyone who chooses to exit their vehicle and go in and cast their vote, or utilize the curb service. Or for other instances, there is a mail, you can mail in your ballot. But regardless, anything that we can do to make sure that everyone exercises their right to vote, either persons with disabilities